Hello, welcome to Full Disclosure. I'm Christopher Gilliam, and today I'm going to be bringing you the City Council meeting in Chippewa Falls that happened on May 4th. If you want updates every Monday on what's going on in your local government, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. So the first thing that happened at the meeting was we had an award ceremony. It had a few people in there with anywhere from 20 to 30 years of service. And it was pretty interesting to me that so much of the town turned out. I would say there was about 30 people in that little council chamber to congratulate some of these folks that have worked in our city for upwards of 30 years. And I feel like you don't see that in every local municipality. You had some first responders show up. There was somebody who had worked with either I believe it was with the fire department or with the police for 20, 30 years. Excuse me for not remembering, but it was pretty cool to see that. I thought it kicked off the session on a good note too. And then after that, we had an appeal come forward. Young girl, I won't get into specific details of who she is or anything like that. It's all public record, but still, um, she came forward. She wanted an appeal for a license to sell liquor. Um, she ended up winning by a narrow vote of 4-3. I was one of the no votes, so I thought I should probably explain why I voted no for this person. She basically came forward and told us that she needed the appeal, that she wanted to keep working at a couple of bars in town, and that she needed it to keep herself occupied because her children had just been taken away recently and she was in a bad place in her life. I definitely feel for her, and I hope that things turn out well for that young woman. Um, the reason I voted no was because in spite of how sad that story is, it to me it had nothing to do with why an exception should be granted. You see, in the city of Chippewa Falls, to be clear, if you've been convicted of 3 or more charges in an 18-month period, then you automatically get turned down for said license to sell liquor. Um, in her case, she's been convicted of 5, and while her story is sad, she admitted that she picked up these jobs here within the last month, and I didn't hear any compelling reason as to why we should turn away, why we should make an exception. She basically said that if she doesn't have those jobs, she's going to go home and drink. And to me, I thought to myself, well, that's terrible, but that's not really on us. You shouldn't be going home and drinking, whether we say yes or no. You shouldn't be behaving like that, regardless of what's going on in your life. It's not good. That tells me you've got some other issues. I mean, as I say, I hope this woman gets her children back. I really do. I hope things turn around for her. At the same time, I'm a bit of a realist here, and I don't see how that's going to happen when you're delegating responsibility for your own well-being onto other people. Um, and furthermore, I don't feel like, given this young lady's history, I looked into the details on her cases, and they're alcohol related. She's been ordered by judges in the past to abstain from drinking. I didn't feel like I was doing this person any favors by granting an exception to the law that puts them in an alcoholic environment. I really don't. I don't think that's doing that person a good service. I don't think it's doing the town a good service. I need a reason a lot more compelling to make an exception to the law. So that's where I'm coming from on it. I thought I should share that and explain why I voted the way I did. So after that hearing, after that appeal, we got to discuss something called the Safe Routes to School Plan, which I thought was pretty interesting. I didn't know they do this every year, but basically they more or less come up with routes, both bus wise and the walking routes for kids, and how they're more or less supposed to get to school. They take data and basically figure out, like there were charts in there on how crashes over a certain mile per hour, getting struck by a vehicle over certain mileage is more likely to result in a fatality, especially for a child. And basically what our city does is every single year they look over and revise the school plan for how kids are going to get to school, and they just try to make it as safe as possible. I mean, it makes sense. I like it because little kids, they run in the street and they do crazy things, and I didn't know that we do something like that in the city. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. Um, Everything in there looked real good. The planners and whatnot have been working at this for a very long time, and the result you get is you don't ever hear about kids getting struck by vehicles or buses crashing into things and whatnot. And well, who wouldn't want that? So and then we had a closed session after that. Now obviously I can't discuss what was in the closed session, but I can talk about what I've learned about closed sessions in general. What is a closed session, what happens in those, and to sum it up, basically what happens in these closed sessions is it more or less has to do with city land, and sort of, if any company is participating in, bids or projects, with the city. And the reason we got to keep that stuff closed and not really release those details is, for the sake of preventing unfair competition. So if you've ever wondered what the heck these closed sessions are about, that's pretty much it. It has more to do with financial business on the city side, and doing business with the private sector. So then we have the next week's going to be pretty interesting. I got an upcoming Park and Rec Board meeting, so I get to dive into that, learn all about it. And they sent us the budget on it. We're going to be approving claims next week, and I was looking over that, and there were a couple odd things that I noticed that stood out to me. And I'm new to it, so I have questions. Like I noticed we have both Spectrum and AT&T internet being provided at the parks, and I noticed too that the rate is higher than what it is for the general public. So I just want to ask if I want to ask about that, why that is. I mean, $120 compared to a city budget might be just a drop in the bucket, but it still adds up. And anything I touch budget related wise, I'm going to treat it the same way I would my household, which is, you don't want to overspend. You don't want to set money on fire. I think it happens in government a lot where, well, it's just taxpayer money, so who cares if it gets lit on fire? It's not my money. Well, that's not how I look at it. So I want to ask about that kind of stuff, why we have two internet providers and why we pay, in some cases, well over 100% of what the general public pays for it. And another thing I want to ask about, I noticed we purchased a brand new vehicle from a dealership, went to the tune of about $28,000. And I mean, one thing I know from doing sales is, basically if you pay at sticker price, you're a sucker. So I'm curious to learn exactly how that works. What does it look like when, government agency goes and buys a vehicle? Is there room to negotiate? Is that something that's being done? I ask these questions because, I mean, $28,000, that's a lot of money. 2021 vehicle, I'm assuming that's brand new. most recent model, and that's good. That's great. At the same time, I know there's auctions where you can get a vehicle that has 6,000 miles on it for 2/3 of the price, stuff like that. So yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around how all this works and see if there's any opportunities to maybe cut down on spending a bit, because we do have some really good parks here. Probably some of the best in the state, I think. And every there's opportunities to save money without cutting down the quality of those parks. I think we should definitely look into it. So, and that's something I plan on doing. And I mean, as I do this whole run with city government, things that come up where there are opportunities to save money or where we do something to save money, I'm definitely going to bring forward in these podcasts, because at the local level, it correlates directly to your quality of life. I mean, the truth is most people, they just don't want taxes that are too high, and they don't want potholes in the road, and they don't want crime that's through the roof. Now, if you've ever lived anywhere where you have one or all of those problems, you know how much it sucks. And I wanted to share a meme with you guys, something I saw that, and this is a real thing that, I mean, this is the kind of, I just want to share my opinion on it too. I mean, this is the kind of thing that if you've ever lived in a community like that I was just talking about, in my opinion, these are the kind of ideas that lead to that sort of stuff. So here we have, I have requested at Gateway City Co. to introduce a number of these wheelchair accessible seats around Galloway. We must do better, and we can do better. Hashtag inclusion, hashtag disability, hashtag better Galloway. Um, and here you have a bench that has an empty section in the middle, and then you have this picture of this drawn image of a guy in a wheelchair parked in the middle. I mean, this thing kind of left me speechless when I first saw it, because I mean, I can tell you just from what I know about what it takes to go to a supplier or a vendor and fabricate something customized like this. I mean, you're looking at probably 5 times the cost, if I had to estimate, as compared to if it were just a straight bench. And I mean, when you're talking about government budgets where it's very likely that you're going to get frivolous spending on top of it as it is, and inflated prices, because a lot of people know we can charge the government sticker price, and they're just going to go, okay. So you take that into account, look at the fact that something like this is probably 5 times what a regular bench would be. And I mean, right away, you should be going, wow, that's a lot of money. If you're in my position where something like this might come up that you're going to approve or deny. Second, like when I think about the practicality of something like this, I try to insert myself into this situation. Like let's say I were disabled. Let's say I were confined to a wheelchair. Would I use something like this? Granted, everybody's different, but when I ask myself, would I use something like this? The answer is absolutely not. What I would do is I would probably, I would park next to a normal bench on either side. What I wouldn't do is park in the middle like this guy, this imaginary guy, because I mean, I picture a couple scenarios. First off, let's say this is a bus stop or something. Okay. You got one person one seat, one person in the other seat. This would make me feel awkward as hell. I'm just throwing that out there. Like me, I wouldn't park in between two people like this. It's just awkward as it is. It's weird. If it were me, I'd be kind of off to the side over here, out of the picture. because there's just something about this that's very strange, and it just seems like it would be awkward and uncomfortable. If you've got strangers on either side of you like that, it just seems weird. Um, I don't feel like I would feel included. I feel like I would feel uncomfortable. that's how I think I would feel. I think I don't know. And I mean, even when you're with family, it's like, to me, in my mind, I'd be like, well, okay, I got a family. I got 2 boys. I got a wife. Some families are even bigger than that. I'm thinking, well, dang it, if only there was another spot for everyone to sit, because I already have a chair. So, I mean, when you think about the practicality of something like that, and I mean, again, this is a real proposal. Somebody actually came up with this and is advocating for this in their city. And I feel like this person is not thinking critically about what it would actually be like to be somebody in a wheelchair using this thing. I guarantee nobody that uses a wheelchair is ever going to actually use this like this. It's so silly. I mean, that combined with the customized costs that you're looking at, again, it goes back to, if you've ever lived in a city where the taxes are really high, or where you've got potholes all the time, or you have an underfunded police department, first responders in general. If you've ever wondered why that happens, it's because enough ideas like this make it through. This is the kind of thing, if it came forward where I work, I would shoot it down every single time. I would shoot this down even if the public was like, hey man, why don't you just do it? Like, what's the matter with you? Well, because I'm thinking about the costs and I'm thinking about the practicality. you know, uh, when you got people depending on you in the city, you can't just set money on fire like that. That's how you end up with a city that runs like garbage. So, I mean, I had quite the laugh over this thing. I couldn't believe this was real. I mean, I guess nothing surprises me anymore in this day and age. But, just my 2 cents on it. I think over the next couple of years, if anything similar in nature to this comes forward, it'll definitely be a fun talking point. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Thought that was pretty funny. So, anyways, next week is going to be a lot more exciting because I have 2 different board meetings coming up. So I'm really looking forward to getting into those and sharing how those work with you guys. As far as the party that's backing me, we're getting deep as well into looking for candidates to run for offices, which is also interesting because, I mean, as I said, one of the things I'm going to do on this channel is share how you go about running for local office and how inexpensive it can actually be in most municipalities, assuming you don't live somewhere crazy like Los Angeles. So, and stay tuned for that stuff. Again, if you want weekly updates on what's going on in the Chippewa Valley and what actually happens in your local governments, go ahead, hit that subscribe bell. Well, until next week, I'm Christopher Gilliam. This was Full Disclosure, and I will see you next week.